Hello everyone, very happy to see you, very happy to have so many of you. So we have different opinions, different perspectives, different things. I wasn't asked, but I want to do that. I will be like a bad cop, asking questions. In Polish, we have an idiom which is to stick a stick into an anthill. You know, an anthill, you put a stick, you destroy everything. So this is what I want to do, but for us to have a clear perspective on things, I will ask difficult questions maybe sometimes want to troll you a little bit, but it is all for the benefit of the scene and benefit of those who are in peripheries and in inequalities. Okay, my name is Cezary, and I'm from Up To Date Festivalu, been a cleaner and been different things doing for the festival for many years. We wouldn't be here if not a partnership with some great institutions, bodies, or cultural and not acts, okay? So we have the Monument Festival, thank you. EEA and Norway grants, thank you for being with us. Fraunhofer Institute, thank you. And Electrum Festival's strategic partner, thank you for being here with us. And we will talk about peripheries, but we have so many people here, 7 people, and I counted 4 of them live or have moved to Germany. I mean, talk about exclusion and techno, you know, is from Detroit, but no one remembers that. Okay, one joke works. Okay, that's good start. Okay, so we will start clockwise. This is Giuseppe. As the name suggests, he's the one from the monument. Scene club in heritage. Giuseppe has been involved in panels and discussions down from South Africa up to Bialystok even last December. Okay, November? Can you hear him saying these things? You can grab a mic, because I will ask you, I think, a question soon. I want to ask all of you, like introduce you quickly. And Giuseppe has been an agent for artists, has been a panelist. There are lots of different things, running things all over. And working for an AJC now, working on your own, right, in a scene club in heritage. What gives you the right to talk about exclusion and peripheries on This is sit down, not stand up. What gives you the right to talk about that?
Hello everyone, thank you so much for inviting, Cezary.
I didn't invite.
Actually, we created Scene Club in Heritage to create a sort of platform where we could have speak again about what are the roots in clubbing, what are the real feelings that in the production of an event, on running a club are the most important thing, in my opinion. So we created this project really to create this kind of situation where we gather with the people. We like create this for like a nice break, no? Because we really noticed that after any event, the guests, the artists we brought around the world created looks like a long time relation with the club, and it's something different than just call maybe the artist to play and then go to the hotel back. It's a different kind of thing that, in my opinion, at the beginning was happening, you know, all in this clubbing spectrum. So yeah, I think a bit the experience I'm doing can let me speak a bit about, but it's just what I see and feel, no, as a clubber first, and then also as I think a bit sector operator. But yeah,
you're not the only one here who started a raver and then climbed up the career ladder in the rave scene, right? Do you know the name of the person next to your left? Kasia? Kasia. Sure. Kasia is Polish, based in Berlin, has been to Spain and also started like her, I will use the dirty word, career, like go doing things, and now based in Berlin, and you're on the verge of Polish and German music scene because you're doing festival Sfora. Okay, and if I ask this difficult question, inequalities, peripheries, what gives you title to even try and say something about that?
Good one, good one. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
What gives me... You're very welcome. What gives me the right to... What gives me the right to even try to tackle the subject? That's your question. I guess I've been out and about. I've never been really rooted in one place. I never felt like I'm this kind of person, so I always wanted to discover different places, and then connected with many different scenes and different people, first in Spain, then in Berlin, and then actually the funny thing is, okay, I did migrate, but in the end I started to do the festival Sfora in Poland because that is kind of where my heart lies in the end, and I think it's worth... My heart, yeah.
Okay.
Not so much in the country in a political sense, definitely, but when it comes to people and music, I think we have so much potential, and I would like to just do my best with that project to promote local music and local artists and connect them together. So also bring together, peripheries. Like we also had artists from Latvia, from Ukraine, and from Berlin. But those kind of bookings that you normally don't really do. You don't really spend money on bringing people who are truly underground to different cities. It doesn't happen enough, I think, and I would like to change that.
I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about it and a little bit later. The next person is Jacek. Jacek is from a different perspective here. Jacek is not involved in music scene. Jacek is a partner of our Up To Date Festival. With Jacek and with his friends and colleagues from Electrum, we share lots of ideas about the world and lots of attitudes. And if we think about gender inequality, it happens in business, yes?
Yes.
Yes, of course it does. Yeah. Okay. When you go in tenders, I had to look it up, this word in a dictionary. Tender is when you have different companies running to have one project, someone pays the money, right? So this is Bialystok. This is end of European Union, used to be end of Soviet Union, and it's periphery, and you're doing business here. And just because you're a business in the East so far, I will not make you hard answer the question, why are you here? Unless you want to say it.
Yeah, well, I don't have a problem with that. I'm a white Caucasian male, so we have a lot of challenges. No, on a more serious note, we are a business entity in Poland which is by itself discriminated. Yeah, and we have a lot of issues with gender, location, language-based discrimination that happen in our business. Our business is mainly male-oriented, male-dominated, and we try to change that. Apart from that, we are kind of on the peripherals because we're from Poland and because we're from Bialystok. And if you're talking about working high-tech in climate tech, then that's kind of a stigma worldwide. And you want to change that. We want to change that. So that's why I'm here, and many other issues. I mean, I'm a big fan of your action. Don't worry, be yourself. And we're trying to tackle mental health issues in our company as well. So yeah.
We have lots in common. We could talk about this. That's why we're doing things together. And then hello, Mats. How are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Mats, from arrival to technician, Oslo scene, letting and by the work of his and his colleagues, so we can have a festival, not this one here, Up To Date, but you can have a festival or a club scene, because you need to have lights and sound and everything, right? Okay, and I will also make it easy for you, because I think what is really unappreciated, like we have bookers at Up To Date Festival, Booker Tomek Hoax and Jędrzej Dądziło, neither of them here, right, Jędrzej? Exactly. Tomek is sleeping because he went to bed about 10 o'clock. That's what he put the message on WhatsApp. And people who are bookers are often depreciated, and do you feel like that as a let's say rave technician?
Yeah, I feel like we go very much behind the scenes from everything. Like we do all the organizing, like the rigging, everything. And when the party is going or the festival is going, we are inside the tent and not seen by people. So yeah, underappreciated.
Okay, that gives you the right. Okay, and then we have Marina. Marina, I was told that you're a resident of Cezary and...
We love you, Mats. We love you.
What about Marina? And the rest? That's inclusion or exclusion, guys. What do you think? Okay, I was told that you come from a small place in Germany and...
Correct.
Yeah? Was it a village or a town? Because my detectives couldn't tell me that.
Well, actually, originally I'm from a village, but I moved into a bigger village.
Berlin?
Yes.
Okay, we have only 90 minutes, and so let's go to Yuko. Yuko, what are you doing in the village that is called Berlin? Because Japan, Berlin, it's a long way. You can't take a train, can you?
No, you have to fly quite a long time.
So why can we, ladies, and the question to you both, why can you talk about peripheries? Or because Japan is like peripheries of European Union? No, it's politically incorrect. Only joking. Okay, how do you feel you can talk about peripheries, and how do you feel you can talk about inequalities?
I personally can talk from a perspective of someone who has more of the privilege than being in the periphery. Mm-hmm. I personally. So I come from Japan, which is very far from the village of Berlin, but I've been living there for a while, and I got to know a lot of people by mostly going to clubs. Okay. And made friends, and I have the access to a lot of the organizations, institutions, businesses that Japanese, say, DJs or artists don't have access to.
Yeah, you work with resident advisor, Ableton, and lots of different, yeah?
Yes, mm-hmm. For example. So I'm here to share my privilege, here and also do my work to share or give back, to give something from what I have to other people who don't have that access, if that makes sense.
And Marina, how about you? You feel more like Yuko on that side, that you can help, or do you feel back in the days village life, cows, chicken, peripheries, and then treasure, umcy?
Well, I come from a periphery, but I moved into the center. So, and I have experiences as a raver since almost 25 years. So I saw a lot. I saw a lot of change, and I see, I can see what's going on now. I can see what happened back then in the good old days. Mm-hmm. So I hope I can give some insight. Okay.
And you used to live in a big place in Ukraine.
Yeah, in Kiev.
Yeah, and now we just talked just before the panel, and I learned that Budapest is small, and you live in Budapest. 300,000 people there.
Oh, to be honest, I don't even remember.
Or now. Something.
It's like 500,000. It's a maximum, maybe.
Okay. And how do you feel about peripheral scenes? Just not making you, because you sit on a chair, I sit on a chair, you're like brothers. Okay, not making you answer why peripheries. Why do you talk about that? Can you? Okay. Do you think? How do you see different? What's the difference between peripheral scene and a scene from a big place? Like a village in Eastern Germany?
Oh, well, maybe sometimes it's difficult from technical perspective to organize it. Like back in the days, I remember time when people just struggled to rent the CDs, for example, just the basic CDs.
You mean CD players?
Yeah, CD players. Just to put them so DJs, like headliner, could play them. So, and like, we all know like money involved, like big money, and it just depends on money, budgets. Mm-hmm. Budgets are limited. Everything is limited. The scale is just different.
Do you agree with him? I mean, we have mics. We can. I strongly suggest.
But there are
to
some,
grab mics and talk.
Yeah, sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, but sometimes there are some, how to say, exceptions. But it just depends on, well, it's a tricky question sometimes, but from my experience, what I saw, sometimes the periphery has something huge, but and it developed just from idea of one person, or maybe like 3 persons, you know. So it just varies. You never know, but in common, it's just different, yeah, scale, like I said before. But there are some definitely exceptions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could talk about it, but I'm just here to ask questions. But you were not in your head like saying, yo.
No, indeed, I agree with Alex, because I think sometimes the periphery is having something, if we can consider real, no? Real, it's when the people comes to your club because of your work, no? Because of what you created, because of the vibe, and not because of an headliner. So I think a lot of periphery nowadays are doing a better work than the central scenes, if we can call like this, because in the central scene, it's so chaotic. You have a lot of headliners, you have everything, no? It's beautiful to live in the little village of Berlin, but the vibes are not always as in a village, no, beautiful as in a village. So yeah, I think
Newcombe is a nice part of that village.
Huh?
Nothing. No. Go on. Sorry.
So yeah, I was saying that one of the first experiences I did around the world has been in Kyiv, and then I realized that oh fuck, it's existing something else, and it's real, no? It's a center. For me, Kyiv, from being a periphery, arrived after 2-3 years of their existence of clubbing to be a center. You know why? I think because of the people, not because just of their work, because of the work of 1, 2, 3 people at the beginning, and then this has been, I think, recognized as a movement, no, in the city. I think people in periphery go to dance or to an event, they hang out because of a different perspective from, you know, like this central scenes where we are catapulted in ton of events, because in the periphery sometimes you can have one event, one club, no? I want to take example about South Africa, no? Is a place where I've been recently. We ran the two panel discussion with Detroit hero Alan Oldman and Asha Rush. And as I said before, it was a right appointment really to create the icebreaker from the crew, the guests, you know, all of us. We were not friends before, and now we are, but friends in the sector. You know, oh, I can explain it better. We were in a place where there are just 2 clubs, no? And these clubs are running well just because...
what town, what part was it?
Cape Town, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Cape Town.
Do you know any other towns in South Africa apart from Cape Town?
I've been in Johannesburg the day before, because I flew there, you know, with Dasha, so I wanted to check. And actually, I want to share a story about this. I rarely experience in any kind of dance floor a feeling of education, no? In education, it means the people that know how to behave, people that care about each other. They are not just bright and take care about each other. No, they really care about each other. So yes, in South Africa, I've seen a lot of education in the crowd, like people that are from 10 different ethnies that are coexisting in the same place to do the same thing, enjoy the night and have a great time all together. And this vibe is a bit losing, I think, in the central scenes, because we have a lot of misinterpretations. We don't have mentorship anymore, because maybe in a little city or in a little, scene like it can be in Cape Town, people exchange, no? People value your work. So your party will be full, sold out, even with the residents, and that's the best realization, in my opinion, for the peripheral scenes. No, I also experienced this in your club here, no, at FOMO, when we did together, no, the panel and unfortunately the closure, no, of the club. Because people then understand that are part of it. They are not part of one event because the guest is amazing for their ears, no? They are part of the movement. And this is the most important thing, in my opinion, in the clubbing scene, no?
So you're saying that peripheries can have movements, can have people more involved, and it's more natural, more organic scene. This is what you're saying?
Yes, right.
Kasia, how do you feel? Are you peripheries? Because Poland, you could say is a periphery. Because if you think about artists in electronic music out of Poland, VTSS, Cats and Dogs, there is some artists that are like world famous. But and you're in Berlin, and you're like back one foot here, the other there, okay? And you're doing the what's his name? Jean-Claude Van Damme trick between Berlin and Poland, and because Mazuri is on the other end of Poland from Berlin, and. How do you feel peripheries? And are you more peripheral person, or are you more big village Berlin person? When we mean big village, we mean something huge, not a village, of course.
Well, in general, I feel like I'm a city girl, but when it comes to music, I strongly agree. I definitely resonate with what you said about the strong and genuine connection that you can create in the periphery, because if you have a small area and limited resources, and then you still provide quality, and then you create that movement, it's easier for people, well, maybe not easier, but I think that people then connect more strongly. Rather than, in big cities, simply everything is a bit, of a mass, becomes a mass, or is a bit more commercialized. But I think the connection is the key word, and in general, in every sector of life and every area, we lack connection, and I think this is like one of the biggest problems of our days.
So you say, go on.
I'm just like thinking out loud, but
that's the way we do it.
Yeah, exactly. Doing my best here. In the case of those peripheral scenes, when you have those strong movements, you can really, I think it's like a very fertile ground for like education and building connections, because people are just closer to each other. I would see it that way. Not to mention music, obviously, and especially in music, in the music industry, like music is sharing passion is something that connects people. So I think it's just more genuine in the peripheries if it's done from the heart. Again, about the heart today.
Genuine, that's a nice word. That's a word that I can associate with. So we wouldn't be running Up To Date Festival here at the end of ex-Soviet Union if not for the passion that we had, not for the passion of Jędrzej and lots of other people, and running a thing. Because I feel like we have Up To Date Festival, if not for our partners, including Electrum now, and also the city is our partner, and Voivodship. Voivodship is like a county or something in Poland, like original thing. We wouldn't be able to stand strong on the ground, because it's like doing Up To Date Festival here is like putting seeds to grow in rocks. I mean, it's hardcore what I'm saying. It's like, it's far-fetched what I'm saying, but it gives a perspective, okay? Jacek, I have a question for you. Kasia said lack of communication or lack of involvement in bigger centers, because it's harder to connect. Do you think that if Electrum was not homegrown Bialystok company, and if Up To Date was not homegrown, but Warsaw-based, because we can say Warsaw is one of the centers in Poland. Everyone knows the capital, like we know Cape Town or Johannesburg, like famous towns. Warsaw is the town. And if we were in Warsaw, would we work together?
I think we might, but I think we would be completely different organizations. I mean, I think that.
So how did that change involvement? Because what I'm really happy about is like having people from, let's say, club rave scene, different perspective, lots of you, and different backgrounds, and similar, I think, love for Ahmed Break and don't listen to techno. No one understands the joke. Sorry. Okay. Only joking, Mareen. Only joking. Okay. And here we are. We have similar thoughts. So once again, Jacek, could you continue? So Warsaw would be not for us. Why, in a way?
No, I don't think it wouldn't be for you. I think we would create a completely different value, each of our organizations.
I meant for us, you and me, like let's say you are Electrum, me Up To Date, we would be for us because we might not connect. Like you said, lack of engagement.
I think that being on the peripherals taught us both, as being about organization, taught us both humility, resourcefulness, resilience, and creativity to create something unique, something original, something of quality outside of the big centers. I think we would have a major difference if we created something outside of Poland, really. I mean, Warsaw is not that far. It's like the suburbia of Bialystok right now. So,
it is. We go there to sleep.
Yeah, but I think being at the peripherals, and I'm not really about absolutes, because I think that both innovation and art can be created in both in huge centers and in peripherals, and they create completely different values, different types of content. But I think that our cooperation, if we were in Warsaw, would be completely different. I mean, we would focus more, I don't know, on working for the corporate world or for the suits or something. But what we did here connected us on the ground of values, and I'm not really sure that it would happen in a large center because of the compromises you have to take to establish yourself in larger centers.
Okay, Mareen, do you ever feel like living in Berlin? Not living, but living, like Berlin bye-bye village. Do you ever think of that?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
For what reasons?
I think just discover something new also. I think I've always been living in Germany. I come from Rostock, which is like 200 kilometers away from Berlin, and I moved to Berlin, and since like 20 years, I'm living in Berlin. The wish is there.
So you were what, 5 when you moved to Berlin? I have a list of how to compliment speakers.
I was 19, indeed, yeah. A bit older.
So now we know.
Make the math.
so you always when you move, for Alex for sure moved from Kiev to Budapest. Moving involves, if you want it or not, a change, a new experience. But if not for new experience, is there anything in Berlin? Because what you three said, people in black, is that being local is more natural. You shake hands more often. You look in the eye. I mean, you have the contact. It is easier and it is richer because people want to do it. And I feel it. Bialystok, end of European Union, and not a big electronic music center. What we are really doing is like bringing it up. We have lots of people now. We have a new project which is called New Hope. People, younger people doing things, and it is lovely, but it is hard. So. Do you ever think of living it, or do you feel that Berlin has this kind of feeling that you have people working together in a way that Kasia was saying that might lack in such a place?
It really depends on your environment, I think, and there's definitely, I think, the advantage of living in the city of Berlin is like you can meet people for coffee, you go into record shops, you make like connections in the analog world that is maybe difficult to make if you live in a periphery. So you don't, you rather talk on social media or per email or something like this. And in Berlin, you can say, hey, I have an idea, let's meet for coffee. Or you can go to this club where you want to play in the future and just hang out with a booker or whatever. So it's a little bit more easy in that way. So you're connected to the analog world more. But I think at one point it can also be very destructive.
Destructive?
Yeah.
Destructive or?
No, how do you say?
From distraction or disruption? Sorry,
how do you say? Distraction.
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 Like okay.
Yeah.
Distract.
Yes.
Okay.
Not distract. It can also be destructive. But yeah, I think at one point, I think if you're not that person anymore that wants to go out every day or that want to meet people or you just want to have like a simpler, more cozy life, I think, yeah, it's a good idea maybe to see where you can live or where you can live in the future. So, and I think what I experience as a DJ, traveling a lot, playing a lot in different places, and there's such a different energy in the periphery than going in my home base, Tresor, for instance. So yeah, sometimes I feel like, okay, wow, there's so much more potential and so much more new things you can implement. I think just the centers are so oversaturated at the moment with...
Oversaturated?
Yeah, with events and things and projects and ideas. So I think it's hard to implement a new idea, really.
I remember back in the 90s, you might not know this project, this old project, they still run it. This is digital dub from UK, Zion Train. And I remember it was 97 when they played in Warsaw. It was Tuesday, and I interviewed them, and they said, oh my gosh, with American accent, British people, oh my gosh. And Tuesday, and that is 1,000 people. We are lucky if we have 300 on a Friday in London. Okay, and how about you, Japanese person in Europe? How would you say do your artists, the people that you manage, do they prefer, or you have managed over the years, do they prefer to play in local little peripheral centers or in big places like in Berlin? Let's not even try how many clubs there are, yeah, or London pub bedroom DJ. No, sorry, that was too far. So what do you prefer? Local small things, or do they prefer the big venues and big places?
I would say both.
Okay.
For example, I manage a techno DJ called Nobu, who's from Japan and who's still based in Japan. But especially this year, he's been playing outside of Japan way more than he does in his home country. And I'm basically helping him play outside of Japan. I don't book his, I don't really manage his activities within his own home country. I mean, he can kind of take care of that. So I help, in a way, export him to outside of Japan. Of course, there's like economical reasons. He can earn way more than he does playing in Japan. Playing in outside of Japan than in Japan, because one of the main reasons that I moved to Berlin is because the dance music scene, electronic music scene was really shrinking when I left in late 90s. I don't know what the global impression of Japan is like, but we used to have very, very vibrant, very wild club scene in the 90s, and I would say...
What were the genres that were like the biggest then?
Genre?
Yeah. Was it techno, house, or... Was it broken beats?
Everything. And I think what made Japan quite interesting was because it's so far from everywhere else. We didn't have like one big influence. I would say Detroit techno is very prominent in Japan, but still, yeah.
Okay.
Well, but I would say it's one of the biggest influence when it comes to techno dance music. But we also had access to European music, and we had really good record business or record market. Yeah. So like reggae, hip hop, jazz collectors, like lots of really basically at one point all the Japanese record stores bought all the great secondhand records from all over the world. So we were lucky to have access to all this music, and it made the scene very interesting and exciting, and it was great for a period of time. But it started to kind of got commercialized, and there were more laws implemented, less freedom, more restrictions, and it gradually kind of shrunk, in my opinion. I think everyone agrees.
But what you're saying is, that I have this feeling, I would ask you to confirm it, is that when it was more popular, it started to fall in cultural values, or it was not as... love for the music diminished a bit.
I think the love for music is always there, but it's not only in case of Japan, but when you have a very strong economy and when you have this popular culture, it quickly gets very commercialized. So everything becomes business and profit driven. And that makes the actual scene or the clubs or the events less interesting or less fun, in my opinion, the more commercialized. So I think it's always important to maintain this underground, independent DIY scene, no matter how big the industry becomes. And in my opinion, Berlin is managing that very well. It has a big industry, but it also it's maintaining this underground culture. Maybe not perfectly, but you can still find young, new people trying out something different, which I don't see as much in places like Tokyo or, well, maybe in London it is, yes, but in other major economy, major cities in major economy.
Could we ask Kasia if you have the same feeling, that Berlin is a big center and also underground?
Yes,
which should make you have media in a village and also local gossip, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we mentioned before that it's oversaturated, but there are also good things to it, which is that you have people like storming into Berlin. They're all passionate, you know, from all over the world, basically forming collectives. That's the thing that I really love about Berlin, that you have all those small collectives, people getting together and coming up with projects. Yeah, I lost my train of thought for a second.
Okay, I will ask you another question to follow up, unless you want to continue.
Yeah, I would like to find my way. Yes. So I really love the fact that there are those collectives and like underground, real ones, and then there's also support, you know, from the state to educate collectives. Or we have the Berlin Club Commission, which is an amazing organization and platform, and always supports people to like, you know, provide them with information how to get funding. So this is really great, and so the state supports small initiatives. I would say, like if you can write a good concept, if you have a good idea, if you have good artists, good music, then basically I think anything is possible. I've seen really small collectives grow simply because they were perseverant and they were like really educating themselves and putting a lot of effort into writing concepts. Because it's not only about music, it's also about the law, it's also about the language, it's also how you put everything in words.
Well, you mean language? You mean German or English or?
Oh yeah, I mean that's like it's the best to like do it in German, obviously. So that's a little bit of a like border there, but anything, it requires a lot of effort. But I've seen it happen, and I love that.
I would like to go with follow-up question. Marina, how do you feel?
Can I add something?
Of course.
Sorry. Because going back to your original question about working with artists from Japan.
Okay.
I said earlier that I try to get them play both in Japan, or periphery and center, because
you mean you're talking about Japan as a periphery?
Yes,
less action.
Physically, physically
and
very
physically
far from
well,
the central kind of the center of the industry, because I don't think it's a great idea to like separate center and periphery. I think that's what's important is to maintain this interaction between the periphery and the center, and give access to the information that we have in the center to the periphery, and share what we learn from the center to share with the periphery, so that the periphery can also improve, and vice versa. We can get inspired by new ideas from the periphery, or the new music genre from the periphery. So I personally, and I'm sure most people here, work to promote that interaction or exchange between the periphery and the center, if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Marina, do you want to build on what she said, or would you like me to draw a question? You okay? Hello?
Yeah.
Bonjour.
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said. It's very important not to separate things because the division is, difficult and
And how about this thing? And also, if you want to add something.
No. Please continue. I would love to ask something to Alex, but after you finish your speech.
You're the guest. But I'm talking here to Marina. This is a question to people based in Berlin. Is the underground Berlin scene, like if we think about ethnicity, is it people who came from Japan, Poland, and other places, and Italy, doing the underground, the thing that you just said, this really, the energy is genuine and lots of things. Are more people non-German than German in this underground scene?
Yeah, definitely. It's very international.
Can it say that it is genuine and true and more like lively, this underground? There's passion. People do it not for money. Can we say that they, and also since in peripheries, that's what you talked about, Giuseppe, is that people in peripheries don't have funds, you mentioned funds earlier, like money to grow the scene and make it bigger, the growth, the popular word in IT, growth, okay? And they pay with the energy. They pay with hours of their sleep. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not a promoter right now, so I can't answer that question maybe. But I can, I definitely see that. If I speak to promoter who book me or we have dinner together, and I know how much effort and love they put inside, and that's not something a bigger club maybe would do. They're like this very professional structures, and everybody gets paid for it. So I think if you play somewhere or go somewhere where it's pure love and passion, that person will hardly get paid.
Do you ever hold on? That's a stick up. That's a question to all of you actually. Okay, and I have a very good question for Mats in a second. Or Mats, you can say. Do you think that when let's call it mainstream, the big scene, big names, do they ever rip off the underground because they take the ideas?
Yes. Especially in Norway.
Really?
Yeah. Like all the clubs and clubs in Norway are just money machines. So when people are starting like communities or concepts and want to do their own thing, they have to go out of the city because the clubs in Norway don't allow them to use visualize themselves to make like the
visualize, make it visible so people can see them.
No, to have their own like visual expression of the event, if you can say it that way. So then they have to figure out another way to do stuff, and then they go out of the city.
Out of the city means what? Into the bushes?
Into the forest, yeah.
And they part in forests?
Yeah. So as a supplier of equipment, it's like really risky, but to support the scene, I really give people the opportunity to here, you have a lot of equipment, pay me whatever you can pay me, and then you can do whatever you want. So people, they actually carry speakers 3-4 hours into the forest to have a party going all night.
Do you mean that they carry like they did Stonehenge? The speakers, like when you think of Stonehenge I think it is in Tennessee, America. Good joke, no? The Stonehenge, the classical, like the old people, hunters-gatherers, when they moved big stones to make whatever. We know that, yeah. They and also pyramids in Egypt, blah blah. So they move by hand, like force, like your strongmen ravers.
They are not that
Vikings?
Strong, but they are a lot of them. So they change who carries. But they have trolleys, and they really put in like a couple days of effort to make a party in the forest.
Now we move from deep Norwegian forest to Giuseppe, who is going to ask Ukrainian person living in Budapest. Go on.
Yeah, before asking the question to Alex,
Thank
I
you.
would love to add something about what we are speaking, no? Because we talk about efforts, no? And I think the most difficult inequalities in the scene is that the production side, I mean booking agencies, press release, magazines, are not accessible for the periphery a lot of times, no? So I think this is a big exclusion that does come from the promoter side or from the crowd that maybe is not coming to your party. For example, tomorrow you will love to book in Up To Date Festival one artist, but you can't because you don't have understanding from the processes. No, like you can't, in my opinion, as an agency, as a magazine, ask the same request that you ask to the biggest club of the center to the periphery. I think that a bit with also our project, we will love and we are trying to improve this kind of mechanism that sometimes just it needs a bit more of understanding. No, probably the artist will come for a discounted price, or he will not take the business class for intercontinental flight, but still will have the best experience of his life. So I will love that.
So do you meet artists saying that they came to a smaller place and it's better than bigger place because of the energy?
Of course. Cape Town was an example. I don't want to go in depth with private details, but one artist paid with his own money the business class just because a bit old, you need to travel, and we didn't pay. She paid, and it's beautiful because this is the stimulus that let me still feel that all this is real. No, there is something behind all what we are speaking. No, there is a real link. No, the artists understand, you make the effort, but efforts should be made by everyone to have a great experience. It's not just a business in one unique sense. No, it should be kind of sustainable for all the sides. So I would love that all the productional side of this industry understand a bit more what's happening in the periphery, and also helping them. So I pass maybe to the question to Alex. I really would love to understand from your side, since Ritimburo was one of the first collectives that I know from Kyiv, what are been the processes from before your collective, and then I think your city to be from a periphery to kind of center of the scene?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think it's a question for periphery, because Rhythm Bureau, it's like the Kyiv scene and Ukraine scene now is really big and huge, and I don't know, and I just can't call it periphery, the scene in Kyiv.
Let's say like 7 years ago, not now.
Even, well, okay, maybe 7 years ago, yeah, well, even 7 years ago, it wasn't like that. We still had huge events, and periphery for me, it's like more like small towns, because Kyiv is a huge city. It's like 4 or 5 million people live there. So, so yeah. Anyway, I can't call it periphery, but I can add what you said, like about the cooperation.
Alex, can you try the mic?
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, like this.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
you're not MC. It's okay.
the cooperation is like super important, because in the end the benefit will be for all, for everybody, and we actually did that in Kyiv. For example, with Closer Club, we cooperate so people with the ribbons from our event can go to after party of Closer event. And yeah, we invited guys from periphery actually to see our events, like the big ones we made, so they can see the production and all the aspects of production, how it works. Yeah, so it's like really helps. So when you cooperate, your scene is just growing. What we saw in Kyiv actually. And for example, we have Schema, and it was an idea just from Slava. Just one guy, he started small, like all of us actually. You start small and then you grow, just grow, and and in his vision and like concept, it's just local DJs and artists, producers plays there. There are no headliners, and this is like huge rave, like 5,000-6,000 people. So like Giuseppe said, it's all about like the experience, the atmosphere, the connection you have. You just go there to be the part of the community and to experience the atmosphere, the vibe itself. It's just, you just go for the vibe. And yeah, so that's actually what we're trying to develop in Kiev. Now we're on hold because of the war situation. Yeah, that's all everybody knows. But yeah, I think definitely we will continue to do that. So yeah.
Still, your colleagues are resisting and doing again events, for what I see.
Yeah. It's we have the daytime events because you need to
daytime.
close.
So they start when and they finish about what hour?
Around maybe 9, 10 in the evening.
It ends.
It ends, yes, because you have this
curfew.
You can go. It's a curfew, and you can go outside after 12 now till the 5, I think. Yeah, but it used to be maybe till 10. Now they reduced it to 9. So yeah, but it's a day event, and it's like really comfortable. You can go to sleep then and just have a rest. It's super good.
Actually, a bit like
still,
during COVID, that we were partying
and you still
during the
have
day.
the same vibe. So like. As for me, like it's super, it's a good time to have daytime events. And I remember when we made like the big events in Kiev, and we always wanted to make a daytime one, and now we have like a lot of them. So yeah,
it's at least one good thing coming out of the shit that is going.
Sorry?
It's one good thing at least coming out of the bad situation.
Yeah, because still the economy should work, and people should have like not like fun. It's like it's hard for me to say that to have fun. So it just for me to be in the club sometimes and see the atmosphere. It's like not strange, but I feel guilty. There's the guilty feeling inside of me because it's hard, maybe not hard to explain because we have a war, and when like people like 500 kilometers from you like dying and there's like wars going on, and you just feel sometimes not comfortable to even the party. So yeah, but anyway, we all adapt. So like human being, it just adapts to everything. So and people adapt, and they adapt to have a party in the end, and they work, and economy is working like. Money
people adapt, that's the thing. It's not our panel is not about how we adapt, but people really do adapt to things, and even horrible things, and then they go on living their lives because their body, their organism wants to live and go on. One more thing about periphery. Mats, is Norway is not, because we can say what has been mentioned, that it's obvious that money helps, grants that you get. Yeah, you were talking, Kasia was talking about that you could write a document, and then the government or some kind of institution grants you some money, and then blah, blah, blah. So in Norway, there is no lack of money. And you're a raver, and you help forest people. I'm just joking. Those things are beautiful in forests. And where is Norway? Like a Norwegian scene? Is it periphery? Is it in the middle? Or is it just a different comet around a different universe?
In terms of population, I think Norway is in the periphery. Like Oslo has 500,000-600,000 people. So the clubs are made for like 300, 500 people. So when you do a rave that's 1,000 people, that's pretty big.
Okay. Okay. If we think about exclusion, inclusion, the things have been changing on the scene. Geographically, they have a place, and we've talked about this, like big centers, peripheries. But if we think about gender, it's been changing, like gender equality in booking in festivals, discussions, and so on. And how do you feel about that? Because we can all relate to it. And we have all read about it. We have heard the term reverse sexism. All of us have some attitude towards that. But I want to jump and change perspective. Jacek, how do you feel in business? Is there exclusion of women?
That happens a lot. I think it's a more scarce occurrence right now. I think we're trying to fight this globally. I mean, especially Europe, Asia, and the Americas. They're growing on that.
What do you mean, Asia and Americas are growing? Growing?
Yeah, well, in terms of fighting the discrimination, the inequality. Yes, I think this is changing. We're growing into a civilization where merit and meritocracy are the way to go. And we found out, I mean, in experience, that it doesn't matter what age, what gender, what language you speak, whoever you are, whatever you are, you can generate great value, great art, great content, and build something amazing. So it's like an evolution of society, I think. So yeah, we do have this problem, these problems. I work in an industry which is very, very male dominated, but we have this very, very, very good I think program in Poland, which is based in what is happening, I think, worldwide, which is an acceleration and promotion of women, for example, in STEM subjects, right? Science, tech, engineering, mathematics, and if you transfer that to Poland, then a couple of years pass. Then you have this sort of societal knowledge, and then suddenly, after so many years, after this education, after this knowledge, the business changes as well. So I think the inequalities are dying out slowly, but steadily.
Go on.
I was just wondering, like, what's the situation with the salaries now, like between men and women in business and IT? Like, you know, that was.
You mean generally, or
like,
in where I work? Like
in climate tech?
No, engineering, climate tech, let's just say.
Kasia, what do you mean? Because business is really broad, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. It's very broad, but basically what we're talking about is hyper broad right now as well.
Okay.
So that's why this question popped into my head, because you're mentioning that in Poland, and I don't know the situation, but you mentioned that it's like inequalities are dying out, but I'm still thinking that, you know...
Slowly dying out. I know a lot of businesses, and this is the majority, where there are inequalities, where women are not treated equally based on their merit, but based on their gender. And maybe I misspoke. I'm actively fighting the inequality. I want this to die out. I'm seeing places where this occurrence is dying out, slowly but steadily. But it's not like a majority, unfortunately, especially in the like Eastern Bloc in Europe.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's like a lot of work and effort has to be made, I guess.
Yeah.
Kasia, is it easier being a girl or woman in Berlin than being a boy or man? Or is it more difficult? How do you feel? Does it make a difference? What you do? Because, you know, from Poland through Spain to Berlin and playing, promoting, right? And the Sfora Festival, is there really a difference? Nowadays, in your perspective, because let's agree that we can have subjective perspectives, right? Okay, that's what Jacek was saying. You said maybe you misspoke, but I don't believe you misspoke. You just said your perspective, and we are here to hear different perspectives. And I'm very happy to have people of different nations, different backgrounds here.
I misspoke because it's still a problem. It's
of course,
because maybe I used the wrong words and misspoke. Yeah.
It's steadily. You said that you noticed a steady change. Slow progress, right?
Yeah, slow, but still too slow, I think, right now.
Kasia, so how do you feel? That may be a difficult question, but how do you feel, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, there are two sides of the coin always, because I have to say that when I started to DJ, there was a huge wave of those like parties that would promote female artists, and I remember that these were the first events that I was invited to, right? So so that's definitely that was. I mean, that's also very tricky because I also am not in favor of just putting a completely female, like basing a concept of an event only on the fact that the whole lineup is female. Because like I'm happy to organize a party where only women are on the lineup, but why do we have to like call it, you know, just by that name and not by the music you play? And anyway, because it's just so common that you have a lineup full of male artists, and but so how about we just make a lineup full of female artists and just not mention it, not promote it as a female-only party, you know what I mean? But sorry, I diverged.
Why not?
But from my experience...
Why not promote a party of females as only female party? To promote the idea of females being in the, let's say, in the techno business.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying no 100%, that these are just my thoughts that I'm thinking like, that I've just seen too many promoters kind of going with that wave and just like, you know, not really having a concept of the event apart from that aspect, you know, and that I'm like, okay, do you know what I mean?
I think I do know what Giuseppe.
Yeah,
exactly,
Giuseppe.
What does she mean?
Oh, I didn't understand properly, but I can add something that maybe makes the concept understood, no? And I think that nowadays labeling, in my opinion, is already creating the label, no? Like, I think we need to speak about exclusion, but where there are the exclusions, no, where there are not, to create then a problem where it's not there. I think this is my personal perspective about what is happening sometimes in the big cities, where actually I feel there are not this exclusion. No? We are speaking about techno cities where there are communities from all over the world that are welcomed. They arrive and they do Argentinian party, Brazilian party, this, that. So there is always a space for everyone. We are really not talking about exclusion. So I guess a bit we should also try to label less and act more, no? Instead of talking, sharing, let people feel what is the issue. Because I feel a bit also in our scene, like in the clubbing scene, this is starting to be a bit demonized, no? As she said, no? Why I should write female only lineup? Because people could be more attracted from this. Why? This is my question. Why? Because we are the first one that create labels, no? So why? Is still my question. And this I will continue to ask to myself till.
So you what do you mean? Well, you want to music scene to be genderless?
No, I'm not talking just about gender. No, I'm talking about any kind of label you can have. No, like POC.
Isn't techno a label?
Huh?
Techno, it's a label.
Yeah, no, I'm speaking more about what she was saying, that, for example, nowadays we noticed also weird lineups that are made just to give a spot to everyone, for the representation. And that's great, but you can also do that without this labeling and create this... I think you demonized a bit then the concept and the mission, no? Instead of creating a safe environment and let young people understand, thanks of your work, thanks of your mentorship, thanks of your festival and the vibe you share, I think in this way you are creating a toxic environment, no? Where people are there to talk about differences, but not talk, think, no? Like, I want to tell a little story that some friends from Berlin told me, like, some years ago. They told me, 10 years ago, Giuseppe, I want to be honest, we were not feeling going around and in a group of 5 different people, in our head, we were thinking these are 5 people, no? And now, after 10 years, in the same city, they walk around, not their fault, they are the same people, same wonderful, inclusive, beautiful people. They notice the difference, but not because they want to give them difference. No, it's just because of all what is going around, the labeling, if I'm clear.
You mean labeling like ethnicity, gender? Yeah, that's what you mean. What did you mean by you said you used the word demonize, and what is demonized by whom?
I mean, we're talking about the clubbing scene. No, so I think by the promoter, the production of culture that usually
you mean
people
that males
want
are demonized, as there should be less male element?
No, I'm not talking less, more. I'm talking that it should be happening organically as it happened for a lot of time. And as I said at the beginning, we should talk and push on against the exclusion where they really are, and not where you maybe you can play with this labeling and. As she said, putting on the lineup just female or just this other ethnic,
Yeah, like if I may, because now I also gathered my thoughts about it. And what I meant also is that we're tackling the whole diversity issue on a surface level. And this labeling is just like approaching it from the top and just like naming things instead of actually working like from the bottom, let's say, and just like from the fundament by making those places, spaces, events more accessible to different actors of the scene, regardless the gender, sexuality, race, because these are all the problems, right? And we should, I think, there is not enough effort, or there should be more effort. We should be working on that and talking about how to just invite more of those minorities into the scene, right? And just make the whole experience more accessible. And that also concerns even class. It's not only gender, right? They're all it's all intersectional. So basically, can anyone afford to... What do you mean by
class in music scene?
Oh, whoa, can everyone afford to come to a party these days, or go to a festival, for example, after, COVID, inflation and all that? Like we tend to forget about that. Like prices in clubs are rising these days. Because, especially in Berlin, right? Like it's insane right now. So not everyone is able...
The prices of clubs?
Yeah, the prices.
What's the highest price of bottle of water in Berlin you have any one of you have come across? Yesterday in a cafe in Bialystok, I paid 9 zlotys for a bottle of water. Bialystok.
For sure, the water costs more than the beer in Berlin. So.
True. Yeah.
Okay, I now understand. Now I do. Mareen, if I might, there's mics around. Have you ever felt that someone tried to pay you less because you were female, not male? Because I'm asking this question just because I talked to a friend who's running an agency, and I said, I think from my perspective, and I'm saying being a male, I see things male-centered, and from my side, subjective, and I thought women have it better, but my friend said that still she has women that she manages, and they sometimes get lower offers. Have you come across it? Is it happening? And Yuko, if you also can contribute to that, that would be great. Mareen.
Yeah, surely. I often felt underpaid, and in the context of an event, I don't know though what my male colleagues got in comparison to my fee. So it's maybe someone who runs an agency can answer that question better. But yeah, sure. I think I just pass.
That's a very difficult question to answer. If there's a fee difference between male and female.
Yeah, I just want to also compare it with business, but even if not for the business, if Kasia hasn't brought it up, I wanted to ask that again because I heard it happens. And I'm not saying if you say you haven't noticed it, it's not that saying that it hasn't happened. So have you, personally, your subjective thing, have you noticed it?
I wouldn't say that women are generally paid less, but what I personally experienced before is because of all this new recognition among all the promoters that they need to consider gender balance, and they started booking more women DJs and LGBTQ DJs in their lineup. Well, they almost feel pressure to add them to the lineup to look, appropriate. So many of the promoters do add women LGBTQ DJ, non-male artists in their lineup, but it doesn't guarantee that they treat them equally. So in my case, for example, what I had was I had an emerging female artist got booked to open a bigger, like a headliner act. And of course she gets less fee because she's less known. That's understandable. But I knew her fee was very, very low, but I still accepted it because I think it still gives her the exposure, experience, and for the promoter, it's beneficial as well. So I thought it's a good booking for both sides. But then on the day of the event, they came to me and said, can you DJ play 2 more hours? Without offering her
What was
additional...
the start? The start was 3/4 of an hour? What was the start time?
I can't remember.
An hour? About an hour?
I think the original slot was maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they came to me and said, can she play 2 more hours, basically twice as much, without offering her additional fee? And the reason was the main headliner act, which was a male duo, didn't want to play that long. So, well, she can, but are you not offering her more fee because she's obviously doing more work? And I really had to fight a lot for like additional, I don't know, 100 euros for her. So this
and
kind
how much do you get out of it? 15%? So why do you quarrel for 500? No, only the stupid joke. Stupid joke. I didn't say it. I thought it, but I didn't say it.
Yeah. So my point is, being booked is one thing, but being treated equally is another thing.
So is it because of being female, or because of being, and don't get me wrong, smaller? Because like big names, smaller names, yeah? Okay, even big fonts, smaller fonts. At Up To Date, we stopped using bigger and smaller fonts, and that's another thing, yeah? But it's the booker's job, really. That's their idea, how they see it. So was it because she wasn't not important enough, or because she was female? Because we started from gender inequalities.
Smaller profile, let's put it that way. And we all know that there are bigger profile DJs and smaller, if you're new and young, you're less known, and you have more experienced popular DJs who earn more, which is natural because the main headliner is more well known, and these are this is the people who draw the audience to pay money to come to the event. So as I said, it's not so easy to figure out what the appropriate fee for each show is. It's not like we have a fixed price for a DJ.
Yeah.
We consider the size of the event, price of the ticket, where it takes place, what the general price range in that country or city is. So it's very it changes depending on the circumstances, but because there's more pressure to book more diverse artists.
Where's the pressure emerging from? Is it natural or is it political?
I think it's both.
Or both.
And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think people need this pressure to make more equal society, but it's not so simple. Like there are issues that comes with it, if you know what I mean.
We have 10 minutes left. Let's make it 11. They're paying. I don't know who that is. I have 2 questions. One is, do we think that the distance between smaller profiles, and the big headliners, the distance is rising? That's one thing. And the other thing, and it will go to Alex. Alex, this is a difficult question. I don't even want to ask that, but I think it will shed some light on where the scene is going and where the things. Do Ukrainian artists now, during the war, have it easier in outside Ukraine?
Well, and
I hope you don't mind me asking that question.
No, it's fine. It's a good question. Thank you. And here comes the gender, how to say, benefit.
Okay.
Because guys usually don't allow to leave Ukraine to do booking, to do gigs outside of Ukraine. So you just can't leave. Basically, now this evening, I'm replacing Igor, my partner, like the good friend who we run the return bureau with. And because he didn't make it because of the bureaucracy stuff and just some paperwork, so it used to be a bit better. Like, for example, how I left. Like, I had a permission from Ministry of Culture, and I was allowed to travel outside.
As an artist.
Yes, as an artist.
So that's why you could move out of Kiev to Budapest.
Yeah. But now it's more strict. So for men, it's like really almost impossible to leave the country. So and now, it's more just women's side have more benefits to travel. So and I see like a lot of my friends moved to Berlin actually. So and they settled down there and trying to do something like the closer crew. Like the the bigger parts moved to Berlin and they do the Zenner Club, I think, maybe you know, events there now. So it's good for girls for sure now, and they can show themselves, show what they do. We have a lot of good female producers and DJs now, because when somebody starts something, there will be people to follow. It's natural. So it's for girls definitely good.
How do you feel about that, Marina?
Yeah, I have goosebumps when you tell me that. It's crazy. I mean, I'm so privileged, and I cannot understand what that feels like. Just to stay or be locked in a country and ready to go to war, maybe also anytime. I feel privileged right now.
Mats, how do you feel about that? Mareen said that she has goosebumps. I believe there's the emotional body's reaction to emotions that we go through saying this. And to be honest, I didn't think it was that hard what you said, yeah? And how do you feel? Let's move, okay? Let's jump to Japan and back to Norway, okay? No, we're Norway, back to Norway. Okay. It is quick. In Poland we have really quick airplanes which no carbon, no. Okay, and in Norway, how is it about gender? I mean, women and men in the scene. I don't mean carrying the speakers on trolleys or not in the forest for Valhalla, okay? But I mean playing, producers, DJs, artists, promoters.
Yeah, this has been a theme in Norway for many, many years, and I think Norway has come a really long way in balancing the differences. So there, I feel like it's pretty balanced in Norway in the lineups and who's doing what. But of course, gender always has something to say. If you're going to carry speakers for a couple hours, it's good to be a male. But if you're going to play after, it's good to be a female.
So we have a Norwegian gentleman carrying speakers for...
Yeah.
Is the distance between smaller profiles, smaller names and big names growing, guys?
I think so, because
No, here we go.
No, Giuseppe started. So,
Yeah, I was saying like I think so because nowadays the social network is letting increase it. You know, like you have following, you are cool, you already big, you come from a little community, you are. Still a good value, but you have more difficulties, you know, to grow. Despite because there are a lot of numbers that before they were not counted. No, before the maximum you could have checked was the views on YouTube, and now you can check the views on 10 streaming platform, the views on all the socials that we have, so or likes and reactions. So I think the social network in the last 6-7 years, I think with the arrival of Instagram, a bit created more distance between big, small, between periphery, center, because I think a lot of people don't know to use well the devices we have. So I felt so glad that 10 years, 12 years ago, I discovered all this and I started my experiences without knowing the face of, or if it was male, female. I just was going for party and do my experiences on the ground, and I think everything changed, like my cousin knows the things that I knew at 20 years old when he was 11, So I think, the social network is letting increase this distance between big and small, but mostly because there is a lot of lack of mentorship, a lot of young people, they don't know how to use it well, and of course, more quantity looks like cool, for your eyes. Also, when I was unexperienced listeners, I was going on, I don't know, the tracks of Richie Houghton on YouTube, and okay, maybe the ones with more views is the coolest one. It's a kind of, I think, young throw that you have, like it's automatic, organically. You will understand then, what is quality, what is quantity. But I think this distance, I hope, will start to be, as we were saying before, cut by merit, by all of you that are sector operators that are trying to share an experience and do your best because you love all of this.
Alex?
I don't mind this gap, to be honest, because it will be like that for sure. But what really concerns me is maybe the real value of this big profile artists sometimes. Because nowadays it's like became like the business machines, and a lot of agents work just for one person. Like, for example, you can imagine it used to be like some rock star, for example, like in 70s. And like you have a crew, like you have a lot of people around you, and it's like big business, like big money involved. So, now those profiles is like, it's just like rock stars like used to be in the past. So, and so sometimes it's tricky. So, because it's, for many of those people, it's just they're doing big business, big money. So, and the art, it's just more like entertainment side. That's maybe what we call mainstream sometimes, I don't know. So if it's big profile, it's good, because like, but if it's like really true profile, okay, I don't mind if a good profile, or like big profile with a good value, like with lots of experience, like respect or whatever, like plays for a good fee, and but sometimes it's just the value is gone and it's just money making machines. So something like that. But and what can help to reduce the gap? I don't know, like things like Bandcamp, for example, like some social.
So do you think Bandcamp Friday helps?
Bandcamp Friday sometimes helps for some people to raise more money, but in general, I mean, you just can show off your work, your art, to more like to reach your audience. So maybe it's important to have the platforms like that. So it's not like Spotify, and then you want to earn something, you just need to have like millions of plays, just so you can, I don't know, rent your flat for a month. You know.
Yeah,
so.
there's the economical difference. I had like we haven't talked about it, and our time is running. We're running out of time. That sometimes people cannot like pursue their passion of music because they have to be a bartender in Berlin, or they have to be on a building site, or they have to cook, or they have to do something else because music is not paying for their gigs. And I believe the shame is that usually the people, like you say, underground. I'm very happy you're saying that in Berlin you have this thing going on, like this tissue of people making it different, and really because these people, like I'll be honest, they are in the underground because they are not talented, or they have big talent, and they are there, and bigger talent. Money is easy. Money makes things easy, and I'm really happy to gather our thoughts. What I think from all the perspectives of yours is that I thought it will be less varied, our discussion and our perspectives, because we are so different and so from such different backgrounds that what you're saying is kinda varied. But what would you say, guys, is in common if you were to help me sum it up? What can we say from what we've talked? What is the current state of the scene if we think about inequalities, peripheries, etc., and where is it going? And I'm giving the mic because you feel excluded. Three of you know mic.
Well, I think that the direction should be the one that we are all doing, you know, creating this kind of appointments, share, use again communication, no, not speak behind the phone, but meet the people, share the experience, no, and being a bit like, as I was saying, 10 years ago, where there was more human vibe and contact in this scene that is starting to be more digital, more extremized, as we were saying, with a lot of differences between big, lit, smaller. So yeah, I think communication, share, also include your friends. I mean, anybody can be, a good speaker. I also was not expecting, 1 year ago to, I don't know, sit here and share my story. So I guess sometimes it's all about stimulating each other, doing our best, and I think the things can change. No, the people like us are around the corner. No, so let's try to keep it more genuine and share all this with them.
Do you have something stronger to say than what Giuseppe just said? Let's go.
I don't know if it's stronger, but I wanted to share my perspective on the big act, small act disparity discussion. From my experience as a booking agent, I think the disparity is widening, but I find the current situation actually more favorable for emerging small name artists. I think because of the pandemic, a lot of the promoters started looking around their local scene, and they started paying attention to their local DJs and artists, and they started booking them. And they're cheaper to book as well. And they don't have to pay for the flights, they don't have to pay for the hotel, they're already there. So I see more promoters booking local emerging artists, which I think is a very welcoming change. But of course they need this big headliner to fill up the space, to draw the audience. So what I see is that they have very big artists and very small local DJs, and not so much in between.
Okay.
So the people, artists, DJs who are in between, in this middle range, I find them struggling because they have to. Well, they're used to receiving certain amount of fee, which the promoter is not willing to pay at the moment because they realize they can book smaller DJs for much cheaper, and they can also draw the local audience. Local
so you're saying
crowd.
middle class is dying?
I don't know if I call it middle class.
Yeah, it's inverted commas, of course.
Yeah. So people in the middle range, I find struggling, and they're finding it difficult to sustain their career. And as you said, they have to start a job, like a day job, to support what they do.
Even usually they have already a job. They want to start from
and
music. Yeah.
People who were seen as a quite established artist are going through. I personally see many artists having to go through this because of this change, and I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's just a change that I noticed after the pandemic.
You don't have questions, do you? No. You came all the way from Norway. You say no. Computer says no. Okay, guys, I really enjoyed it. It was a really good thing, and I learned quite a few things. Either about the situation in Ukraine, the forests, or how is it for women in Berlin. And I'm really happy that the street scene, I call it inverted commas, in Berlin is lively and full of life. And I agree with your disparities. And what I think and believe doesn't really matter. What matters is what you take out from here, I take home. I would like to thank you all, and I will go behind you. Don't worry. Be yourself. Let's stand up and let's have a picture. And clap your hands for the guests. Let's stand up and have a picture. Jędrzej, where's... What the... Oh, let's have a... Yes, take a picture. Take a picture and share, okay? Yes? We have it on camera, right? Thank you. Thank you guys all. Bravo.